then the go live button appears.
Stop streaming. I don't see a go live button.
You see start streaming?
Yeah, and it's blue. Well, no, I see stop streaming.
Okay, you're good. Go live should be directly below it.
Actually, I think we're live now.
Oh yeah, you're live now. I see you.
Oh, awesome. Okay, Wonder Bar.
What? Louder than-
Whoop, what's that? What was that?
Hold on.
Okay. Uh, moments away,
Yeah,
viewers.
I am way louder than you
Yeah, okay.
on the live stream, and you are on left channel.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I'll figure this out momentarily, dear viewers. I should be centered. That's really weird. Interesting. Okay, so I'm dumping us both to mono to see if that helps. So, here we are. It is August the 21st, and this is the live stream. How is it sounding now there, Whack? Any
Okay,
better?
so
What's that?
yes, you're good.
Okay, cool. All right. So, welcome to another Gear Show this Thursday, August the 21st. I'm Mike, and hearing the disembodied voice of my friend Whack, say hello.
Hello.
Hey, there he is. A wonderful gag that never gets old. So, today's topic is essentially what is prepping? And I think it's a good place to start because a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about what prepping is and can be. Um, I made a little commercial for this a couple days ago where I mentioned that the 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 thing that comes to mind is the basement dweller who's got the stockpiles of stuff and cosplays for the end of the world. But it doesn't have to be that. It really doesn't. Um, to that end, I want to talk about basically the ideology of prepping and then kind of starting to look at little things that you may already do in your life that are preps and kind of how to figure out which direction you want to go with said preps. Um, so let me start with this. How would you define prepping?
Well, when I hear you're a prepper, what is a prepper? I would have to say the dude with a beard that thinks that force and violence into his problems in a uh oh darn it, forgot the name of the show. But thinks that they should prep food, ammo, and supplies so they can live completely off grid when the end of the world comes.
Okay. That is not an unreasonable assessment, unfortunately. Um, Let me ask you this. Do you ever do any meal planning?
You're asking the wrong person.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah. You know what? You know what? Yes, I do meal planning because I plan to ask Abby what we're gonna do, and then she planning.
So, like when you go grocery shopping, you just pick up the same things over and over again, or do you say, "Oh, I want meatloaf this week, so let's get the stuff to make meatloaf."
Uh, uh, Abby gets the stuff to make. She's got some tips on how to make the meatloaf last longer, but
Well, I think what I'm trying to convey is that basically anything. Oh, all right, let me dial this back a little bit. This is how I define prepping, and I've kind of cultivated this definition over a while. It's taken me a bit to get here because it does kind of fly in the face of what people think prepping is. To me, prepping is anything that utilizes skills, knowledge, and resources to mitigate problems in your life. That's it. That's all it is. Now, how you scale that, that we'll discuss scaling it later, but how you scale that will determine how far you go in prepping. Um, there's a prepping channel that I follow called the Urban Prepper, Cliff out, and I think I want to say he's in Seattle. He's a normal everyday dude. but he's got some of the most logistically tight, some of the most polished and refined preps because it's all about what is he prepping for, and that's something else we're going to discuss. Um, but you know, making sure your car is topped off with either gas or electricity, you know, small nest egg for veterinary emergencies or personal emergencies or whatnot. Um, Anything that you do to make sure that life doesn't take you by surprise, I consider that a prep.
Okay.
What do you, if you took that philosophy as opposed to camo beard bro with a gun, do you think it would be more palatable for people to say, "Oh, hey, yeah, he lives in the Pacific Northwest. Of course he's got stuff for volcanic eruptions because that happens there." When you take out the military aspect of it or the military cosplay aspect of it, um, do you think that would be something more palatable to the everyday person?
Yeah, yeah, I see where you're going with. One of the ways I word it is, gotta do it anyway. You
Yeah,
got to It's got to get done. People tell you can't do stuff. Well, you got to do it anyway.
yeah,
Do that by prepping.
yeah, 100%. You know, um, you and I were both in the military, and I don't know what it was like for you, but it was it wasn't required, but it was highly recommended. Little things like, always make sure your spare tire is good to go. Always make sure you have half a tank of gas. Don't be too far from the base unless you're on leave. Little things like that. And these are little things that carry over to everyday lives where it's like, oh, yeah, I've got a lot of running around to do tomorrow. Let me gas up tonight. That way it's one less thing I have to worry about tomorrow. To me, that's a form of prepping. That is a simple action that you can take to mitigate life coming at you sideways. You can, of course, go down the rabbit hole of, I want a bunker and I want all the guns and all the freeze dried food. But that's for 90% of the people, which is kind of what I want to target this at. That's unnecessary. So,
Well, it's those other 99 1% as well, but
well, yeah, I mean it's necessary for them, but they're already they're in a different realm. They're on a different level, you know. This is a 100 level intro course. We'll escalate to all sorts of stuff. Um, so I want to go ahead and start sliding over to some of the weird shit that you'll hear as a prepper. Um, Terms that you're going to hear as a prepper. I'm sure you've heard of a bug out bag. Um, you know, there's I'm drawing a frickin' blank now because I didn't write down any notes because I don't like scripts. There's you got to have a pace plan and you got to know, you have to have a navigation plan and this that and it's like, okay, pump your brakes. What you need to do is you need to figure out where you are. I'm pantomime accordion. You need to figure out where you are, and wow, I'm really bassy for some reason. Um, and what was the best way of putting this? You need to figure out the best things to start shoring up your life or your lifestyle, and that's the easiest way to get into prepping.
that leads into something I've been for a couple of years now. You need to work on your lifestyle and what's good about what you're doing, and not what you think should be stockpiling and getting ready.
Right.
Like to continue the way you live.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the way you live, well, that's one of the things you got to change, isn't it?
Well, okay, so that's the thing is there are so many prepper channels out there that they're fear-based. They're really fear-based. Like I was watching a dude doing a Q&A and somebody had posted up that Canada has banned hiking in the woods. And this dude just took it as like, look, see, you can't bug out in Canada anymore. And it was like, I did a 30-second Google search, and it's like one area of, I want to say Ontario, which they've stopped people from hiking there because they haven't gotten any rain in like 8 months and it's a huge fire hazard. And they're like, as soon as we get some rain, as soon as it's safe and we know people aren't going to accidentally burn the forest down, you can go back in. But that immediate response of, oh, look, you can't bug out in Canada anymore. It's like, it took me 30 seconds to find this information. I know it's not that hard. Type in Canada bans hiking in the woods and I found it. But it's real easy, I've found, and especially in the prepper community, it's real easy to lean into fear, to lean into paranoia, to lean into, oh, the government's going to overreach and I need to bug out, when more likely it's going to be like, the government doesn't have the resources to maintain, so we need to make sure that we don't become a victim of that. And I don't mean that to...
The fear mongering.
Yeah, the fear mongering
is a thing, because in your example,
mm-hmm.
the government has collapsed. That's why I'm bugging out.
Yeah.
They have decided I can't go somewhere. Aren't we just at the point where we've already said they're no longer valid? Like,
right.
I don't need their permission to go to the woods.
Right. But it's like, so I'll give you an example to the other side of the scale, which is going to be more practical for average everyday people. A couple years ago here, was it 2 years ago? Had to have been. It got super freaking cold, and the water main in our town broke, and like there was like a 4 or 5 block radius, no water whatsoever. This happened just before Christmas, out of the blue, and they were having trouble getting water in because whatever freaking reason. Clayton County Water had set up stations where you could go pick up bottled water and jugs of water to keep, existing and whatnot. We had, at the time, a kiddie pool out in the backyard that we kept water in for the outdoor cats. And even though it was frozen over, it was like, okay, we can break off the ice of that, melt that water down, and then use that to keep the toilets going. Because at the time, I didn't have good water supply. Now I have a couple of jerry cans that are just sitting around, and when it gets to be storm season or once it gets cold, they get filled up, brought in the mudroom, and they live there, and it doesn't bother anybody. But it's like understanding that infrastructure is probably going to be the biggest obstacle. You learn to look at these things and go, okay, where are the weaknesses? And I want to bring that around to like the personal. I don't mean personal as in the individual, but like the micro level weaknesses. So like I pick on you for your electric car, but it's got its advantages. But something that you have to be aware of when traveling is your range and where you can charge up again, right?
Right.
So you probably have an idea of, oh, if I go this direction, I have charging places here. If I go this direction, I have charging places here. You make accommodations for that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The number of times I've seen people, especially like it's weird. The industry I'm in, I work in the entertainment industry for people who don't know. It is some of the most talented and skillful, irresponsible people on the planet. It's like these cats can do some amazing stuff with the technology in the entertainment industry. But the number of times that people have locked their keys in their car, ran out of gas on the way to a venue or on the way back, forgotten, a change of show blacks or whatever. It's like, how is it you can do all of these wonderful things with technology, but you forget the basics? And that's kind of what I want to focus on, is like, you've got to understand the basics of what is in your day-to-day life, because that will guide how and what direction you prep into.
If your colleagues had electric cars, then they would always have a full tank every time I got in
Yes, but
it.
the fact is, we're not always going to the same places at the same times and the same distances, and it's especially worse. It's not as bad anymore because the film industry in Atlanta is kind of dead right now. But there are days where I would go 60, 70 miles one way, and I'd be out in the middle of nowhere because we got a piece of farmland as a location for cheap. I wouldn't be able to charge a vehicle out there.
I would.
Well, you you would find something,
Because
right?
I prep. I'm prepared. I know how to make it happen.
I am 17 miles from the nearest charging station, so I brought a generator with me.
That is the thing you could do, but no, I could probably power from that site.
It was actually not uncommon for people with electric vehicles to literally stab into the tow plants that were providing set power because we were out in the middle of nowhere and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, can I get a charge up on this, please?" Yeah, right. Yeah.
Hey, there's a pro tip right there.
Yeah.
Ignorance can be your friend.
Right. Um, but let's bring it back around to like day to day, everyday people stuff. People shop at Costco or Sam's, and the idea is, oh, I want to buy laundry detergent once every 6 months, so I go to Costco, I buy the big bucket of laundry detergent, and it lasts me. Great, perfect, wonderful. Do you do the same thing with food when you can? Do you do the same thing with pet food when you can? And I'm gonna harp on something here. If you are to the point of stockpiling food and you don't eat rice and beans regularly in your diet, don't go and buy a 50-pound bag of rice and vacuum seal it and put it away. Stockpile what you eat. Keep it cycled through. That way it doesn't get bad or whatnot. But I'm under risk. Okay, so
Well, actually, since we're on this, that was one of my pro tips. There are two things at Ace or Costco that I like to get. One is a 25-pound bag of rice, and the other is a 20-pound bag of sugar. We buy those at halfway done.
yeah,
Buy some. We are never out of the thing we use all the time. Also, the 8 packs of butter. Those are the things we buy at the
but th-
at the BJ's.
but there's the key. It's stuff you go through. If
Hmm.
you eat rice on the regular, by all means stockpile rice. But if you don't stockpile rice. I've seen prepping video channels where the dude has literally got like 3 buckets full of vac sealed, bread flour, self-rising flour and shit like that. And it's like, well, I've only made bread once or twice, but at least now I can do it. It's like, really? That's okay. All right. Okay. But the other thing is you kind of got to look at your daily life in terms of what do you use, what do you consume on a daily basis, and I don't mean just food. In your case, you already know vehicle power, phone power. Um, you know, what are the things that you go through? You know, do you have a laptop that you use all the time, or you have to look at what what basic things do you need to not disrupt your life, and then you can dive deeper from that. So for me, because the electric grid in this area is not great, where'd it go? It's right here. I have this little guy. It can be recharged with solar. It's got a little light on it. It's got plugs on it. I can recharge my laptop a couple times. I can recharge my phone a dozen times. But that's because I also know, how much power I consume for my widgets and whatnot. Plus, I take that camping. You'd be surprised how
I
many.
had one of those.
What's that?
Wish I had one of those.
Uh, I don't remember where I got it. I have to look at it, but I do remember I caught it on sale, and it was like $120. It was like half off. It was great. Um, And I'm not saying you need something like that. That's overkill for most people. But like when I go camping, I do like to have some comfort items. Um, do you know where all your important paperwork is? Is it all consolidated in one area where you can, if you have, God forbid, a house fire or a sinkhole or something like that, where you only have moments, you can grab one thing and go kind of thing, which is not. If you're to the point where you can grab one thing and go, you're probably in worse shape than you think. But that's neither here nor there. But like, you'd be surprised how many people don't have all of their stuff together, like all of their important documentation together. It's like, why not? What if you need to, you know, I know most people, a lot of that stuff is online now, but do you have a downloaded copy of it? Do you have it all external on a thumb drive that, maybe just lives in your work bag or something? A lot of the little things about being prepared, they've got to start with where are you at and where are you going with it? If for anybody watching,
To talk about one of the everyday tips when you bring up your cell phone, you should always be thinking about having your cell phone above 75% all the time. Is what happens if an emergency happens of regular kind, not apocalyptic,
right?
and you have to go longer than you plan.
Yeah,
You should always have a plan. Now, that doesn't mean always carry a battery.
right.
That means know where you can get a cable, know where you can get an outlet. That's my secret. I'm always thinking of shit like that, and then I don't have to carry it with me, but I know how to instigate it, and I'll have power longer than everybody else.
Right.
Because I thought about it before it went tits up.
So it's interesting that you bring that up because there are a lot of people whose attitude is, oh, I'll just bring a block and a cable or a battery bank with me. Sometimes you don't have that luxury. You go into federal buildings, you go into certain municipal buildings, and they can get a little touchy about what you bring in. Why is everything so basic? I'm gonna have to tweak my monitor settings. Sorry. You're not always going to have everything you need in your pockets at the right time when you need it. So being able to scrounge like that is fairly important. I'm fairly fortunate in that I can get away with being a little more lackadaisical about what I carry with me, because in my truck, I have my work toolkit. I have a duffel bag with a change of clothes and show blacks in it. I have stuff to get into other vehicles because 4 or 5 times a year, hey, I locked my keys in my car. All right, well, let me get my stuff and I'll get your keys out. And later on down the road, I'll go into what are in those things and why I can justify not having certain things in an everyday bag versus the stuff that I carry in those bags. It's basically a supplemental system. Excuse me. Tonight's episode is brought to you by water. Hydrate, motherfuckers. One of the things that I highly recommend people who are just getting into prepping get is something like this. Simple graph notebook. I recommend a graph notebook because you can draw out and sketch out things. You can make there's plenty of websites that show you how to do like inventory journaling, so you can figure out what you have, where you have it. If you have a family, if you have kids, you need to work on like a fire escape plan or any kind of emergency plan. The simple act of starting to write down, and here's the other thing, I recommend physically writing stuff down. I remember seeing an article, and I cannot find it again for the life of me. So this maybe it's just something my brain thought up. But there was an article that said basically if we write things down physically, our brain is more likely to remember them because the mechanical motion of writing out the words reinforces what we're thinking, as opposed to just typing or typing. So I'm a big fan of physical hard copy stuff. But you can journal out. You can figure out what do we use in a month? What do we use electricity wise? What do we use consumable wise? What do we go through food wise? How many times do we have to charge the vehicle? How many times do we have to fill up the vehicle? All of that stuff. And once you have it quantified, you can start saying, oh, okay, well, we don't drive that much or we don't drive that far. So as long as we're staying in-house, if there's an emergency, we need to make sure we're set up for this kind of duration. And that's when you can start looking at it and go, oh, I want to pad out so I have an extra 2 weeks worth of groceries. Great. Perfect. That is a great way to start. Perfect way to start. Because that starts getting you into that mindset of paying attention to, okay, where are the weaknesses in my day-to-day life? Where can things stand to be shored up and improved?
I am a poor man, like by definition.
Right.
Also a cheap, miserly. So I often cannot do what you're saying, but I can have the same kind of mindset.
Right.
As you just mentioned, if there's an emergency, there's almost always going to be a little bit of respite before the emergency ends.
Yeah.
And the thing that I find help is the key is communication. So we work the problem. Me and my wife, we talk about it, decide what we're going to do. We split up and we do it. What I mean by that is, crap. We recently had a chemical explosion here in Conyers that filled the sky with poison.
Yes.
Right? And we're like, oh no. So we were able to drive over, break, go down the 2 different aisles to get the bread, the eggs, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the car. We don't have any money, so we have a backup plan about how to make that happen. Home, doors locked.
Right.
So communicating and thinking about it beforehand, and then talking about it and not being afraid to discuss possibilities before it happens.
Right.
Okay, so we're getting pulled over by the cops. What do we do? This, and this, and that way we know what the other's going to do, even if we're separated.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think that's another thing that the prepping community right now is dominated by middle-aged to slightly older white guys who are probably financially comfortable. A lot of them, have land or, some kind of property or whatnot. And it's like you've kind of lost touch with what it's like to be an everyday person. You don't go through the struggles of, I need to find, I need to scratch up $10 and change out of the couch to put gas in the truck or whatever. You obviously don't have that issue. But it is, and that's one of the reasons I'm glad you're here, is because you do bring that perspective of, I don't have the free money, the free resources to spend. So you and I can sit down and be like, okay, then what is your thought process? What is your acquisition process? What is your actually, you know what? This is a great segue.
Weapon and Supplies, OSP.
So, let's talk about something called the OODA loop. Are you familiar with the OODA loop?
Not familiar with the OODA loop.
Okay, so the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. Basically, it means you look at your situation like you were describing. You look at your situation, you figure out what to do, you agree on a plan, and then you do that plan. It's exactly what you said you and your wife do, like what you guys did when there was the chemical explosion. Again, this is one of those things that is highly important in prepping and that most people don't even realize they do because you do it hundreds or thousands of times a day without thinking about it. But when you consciously think about it and you say, okay, I don't have any money, but I need to get this, this, and this. Okay, what are my options? Weapons and equipment, OSP. Right. You got to figure, you figure out what your game plan is. You know your neighborhood, you know your neighbors, you know your environment. Same with me up where I'm at. I have slightly different challenges because I am right next to the airport, so it's a high traffic area for a lot of shit. Um, but understanding that process of figure out, look what's out there, figure out what your options are for the direction you want to go, decide on a course of action, and then act on that. That's actually more than half of what prepping is. And as I said, there are these people who they're comfortable in their lives and they've got bank accounts where they can spend on all of this stuff, and they've forgotten what it's like to not have access to these resources.
I think we've mentioned recently off camera, so I'll mention it now. The way that we live our lives is a very prepping and getting things ready. When COVID happened,
Mm.
we were a little mystified by everybody else and a little bit of a panic.
Yeah.
We simply went into hibernation mode. We literally have one.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, we're in lockdown. And we made sure we had the supplies. We made sure we had the entertainment. We made sure we had all the tools required to not have to step out this house for 2 months. I know it lasted longer than that,
Yeah.
but we were ready. But when everybody else was like, oh, I don't know what to do. Everybody started making bread, and we were like, you don't have ready. You don't make bread. It's bread making time. That's March. That's when it's time to make bread. So if you think ahead, you can find that when the storm comes, you're already good. You're already battened down.
100%. 100%. And this, one of the reasons that I kind of wanted to do this is, as I mentioned to you when we had this conversation, it really disillusioned me on a lot of the prepping communities out there, because you literally had whatever your take on COVID-19 was, whether you accept the fact that it was a virus that was going around that was making people sick, it was making everybody sick, and it was dangerous, or whether you think it's a conspiracy theory or what the hell ever, you had this moment in time where you could literally put your preps to work. You could literally stress test them. And the number of preppers that I saw that were just whining about, oh, I got to wear a mask and I can't go outside and I can't do this. Like, what are you prepping for then? What are you doing? I will be the first to admit that the gear that I show you when we get to that phase, I got it because I think it's cool. I don't take most of this seriously. Yes, I like to be prepared. When the lights go out, I like to be able to run things. I like to be able to have a fan going because it gets hot. I like to be able to take care of my cats. But at the end of the day, I don't take prepping seriously. I get the stuff because I think it's cool. But there are these people out there who get genuinely butthurt when you suggest that whatever they're prepping for is not real, or that they're overdoing it, or that they're making themselves a target, what have you. But when the lockdown came and preppers started whining about wearing a mask, oh, I don't want to wear a cloth mask, I don't want to wear an N95. Right? What are you going to do if you have to live in a gas mask for 3 days straight? What are you sure as hell not going to suck it up? You're whining about wearing a mask, and no. No. You are not a serious person anymore. You are just going through a second childhood with guns. That's what's happening.
Afraid the word that I used at the time, as I said, society buckled.
Yeah.
They went into a rage because the skills that were necessary, the skills of helping, healing, and compassion,
Mm-hmm.
those skills are the ones we need. For example, started making our own masks.
Yeah.
We didn't have to leave.
Yeah.
Had fabric available. Made our own masks. And that's a sewing skill.
Yeah.
And does not require any kind of carbine rifle.
Right.
And because the apocalypse came and they found their skills to be unusable, they got very, very mad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. 100%. You know, and that's the other thing. The how can I put this? There's a great deal of there's a great undertone of misogyny in the prepping community because there's a lot. Unfortunately, the prepping community is predominantly right wingers, conservative older men who have their gun fantasy. To that end, you see a lot of just that subtle misogyny about, you know, while my wife's taking care of the house, I'll be out patrolling. Like, wait, patrolling what? You're gonna walk around and defend your 10 acres in upstate New York or whatever? From what? From what? Everybody's gonna be trying to do their thing. Well, what about marauders? What about marauders? Have you ever experienced marauders? It's like bugging out. I hate the bug out fantasy. Do I have a bug out bag? I have a FEMA bag, but that's different, and we'll get to that on a different day. But it's like, you've never bugged out. I guarantee you have never bugged out. You've been evacuated from an area. Maybe in the military you had to bug out, but then you had the military infrastructure with you. So you weren't bugging out. Your unit, your squadron was bugging out. You don't know what the hell's going to happen. And you're sitting here spouting fear-mongering horseshit like you do. It's really frustrating. And that's kind of why I want to...
America is a big place.
Yeah?
Having a complete societal collapse is very unlikely.
Oh, yeah. Well, so, okay. It's exactly like... Okay. The discussion of why martial law could never happen in this country. Even if you federalized every cop out there and brought in the military, still outnumbered 150 to 1.
But they actually did do that. There, but literally, I'm not. Some things are not divisive. They literally passed the law to do that. So
yeah,
they're about to have a. Well, if they can find the people, that's the problem.
Yeah,
they have the funds to fund an army bigger than most other countries.
Yes,
they don't have the people.
Of course not, because the people that want to do it, well, they're just a vocal minority. The people that don't,
they want it to happen, but they don't want to do it.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a absolutely fair assessment. I think we're drifting a little. Getting back to it. So
they want us to. Oh, they want us to do it. So we need.
Yeah. No.
They do though. They want us to do it. It's relevant.
Oh, I know. Oh no, I'm just saying we're kind of drifting off topic.
Okay.
Step one, I think, for most people getting into prepping would be easiest thing. Start looking at what you've got, what you use on a regular basis. Start condensing all your important paperwork so it's in a file folder or a singular place. I have this is my work in progress folder where I keep all of my important paperwork. It's nice and bright. That way, if there's something, if the house is burning down or whatnot, or just if I need to grab it for whatever, it's highly visible. This is a rather Gucci piece of equipment that I bought a couple of years ago, specifically for building an emergency home binder. But as I said, absolutely start off with one of these, and go to Goodwill, go to Walmart, whatever. Get yourself one of those little accordion folders, or get yourself a binder, and start condensing all of that stuff in one place. Just 1 second, I gotta text back.
I am a digital guy. I've been, I do what you do. I think about the future. I think about where we're going, and I'm kind of all in on the idea that the internet will still be there.
Right.
So I have a digital version of everything that we're talking about.
Now,
So one of the things I was going to recommend is I have two scratch pads on Google Docs, and you can replace that with a homespun server if you need to.
mm,
But I have two scratch pads on Google Docs, one public, one private. So I can write important information on the public one and not link to anybody.
right,
But we're talking like, what if somebody needs my name, my first and last name, and they need my tag because they know I've been picked up by somebody,
right,
right? I'm able to type that quickly into the public scratch pad and bounce it over to anybody with a link that needs. I'm
r-
able to write up a quick eyewitness account of what's happened.
right,
And it immediately goes off to people I trust.
right. Now, for your documents, do you do the what do they call it? The 3-2-1, three copies in two places, one of which is offsite.
This is an emergency scratch pad. This is a scratch pad to share for information that's happening in real time
Okay,
and therefore does not need to be backed up.
okay,
My backup system is strong, but I'm really looking forward to a future tech, which we'll get into at some point, about the quantum chips. I'm sorry, the quartz chips, being able to burn things directly into a chip that can survive the nova of the sun.
right,
That's coming, and we're going to have it in our hands in our lifetimes. And I don't have that yet, so yes, I definitely have a vulnerability there.
right. Um, so I want to I mentioned a couple of terms. Ooh, what is this?
That's me sending you the bag that I got at my local liquidation store for two.
Okay, I'll have to take a look at that shortly. Um, so I mentioned things like a bug out bag. Speaking of bags, um, some of the terms that get thrown around in the prepping community, bug out bag or your bob. Um, there's something called the inch bag, the I'm never coming home bag. You got things like your EDC, your everyday carry. Get home bag is exactly what it sounds like. Um, your comms kit for radio communication, things like that. Um, these are all things that are absolutely um, that are absolutely. Oh yeah. I think you showed me that before. Sorry about that, audience. Um, these are things that you'll hear a lot in the prepping community, and there's also going to be a lot of talk about guns and body armor, and you need whatever horseshit new tactical exciting thing. Um, but at the end of the day, prepping needs to be ultimately about for what is best for you. Um,
This is a good moment for me to make a suggestion for the show.
okay.
But we're trying to find a focus. We're trying to explain to people the years of experience we have in surviving.
Yeah.
Is the guys you're talking about that are plumbers and think they're self-made, even though they got a bunch of subsidies, those guys,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to survive.
Right.
We have survived,
Yeah.
right? Here in this battlefield, this apocalypse, right? So I'm going to suggest that we pick one of those topics going forward.
Uh huh.
The next episode is how to survive and it doesn't matter, how to survive a trip to the grocery store, how
Right.
to survive a trip to the movies, because you never know. The movie shootings happen, right? So we
Yeah.
can talk about how to get into the movies, how to get in cheap, how to
Right.
get out alive in every way that's possible, and theme it behind everyday activity.
I can dig it. I also want to. I want to break down a lot of the. What's the best way of putting this? I want to break down a lot of the bullshit around a lot of the prepper ideologies of things like, oh, you need a bug out bag. No, you don't. You need what I consider to be, I call it a FEMA bag or an evac bag. Like, okay, I'm gonna be away from my house for a couple days for natural emergency or natural disaster, whatever. But you see some of these builds, and it's got the most random crap in it. You know?
That's the one we'll theme, how to survive an evacuation from the house.
Right.
And there's a lot of reasons why that might be. It
Yeah.
might not be as obvious as the hurricane that's coming or the explosion that happened 2 miles from my house.
Right.
It might be that something in the house has gone south and you have to leave
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
It could be that you have suddenly an allowed to be their home invader. Right?
Yeah.
that you just have to get away from this person or there's going to be violence.
Right.
Those kinds of things. We can theme the whole episode around how to survive an evacuation.
Okay.
Because one of the points will be it's very unlikely the evacuation will be long term.
Yeah.
What do you actually need to be able to leave the house and come back a week later?
Yeah.
What will you expect to find when you get there? Do you have that prepared?
Yeah. There's a lot of I'm just going to grab my bag and run off into the woods fantasy, and that is really not good. Really not good. Because most people, they're not, the discomfort they would feel is immeasurable. At the slightest inconvenience, people get angry about stuff. People put these kits together I see online, and it's just like, yeah, you're never going to use that stuff. And it's weird because it's like, oh, well, it's an insurance policy. Better to have it and not need it. Okay, well, if that's the case, why don't you just spend the money on stuff that you would actually use? Or spend.
Father-in-law ordered, and he had a bunch of stuff
Yeah.
that he had just in case, and it filled the house, and the house smelled like spoiled meat. It was a real problem. It was a level 8 out of 10 hoarding situation.
Ugh.
So I live a Spartan lifestyle. What can you go without is my question. How much insurance can you not have?
Right. And then I'm somewhere in the middle. I just like the toys, you know? So I have my
So
toys.
I like this plan. You're going to get your bag. You're going to show it to me. And I'm going to show you how you can do it all cheaper. I guarantee you, I can tell you how to do it.
So I think what we'll do is we'll start off small. Next week we will go with well, you mentioned going to the grocery store. Let's talk about the things you carry in your pockets when you go to the grocery store and how to maximize what you do at the grocery store. How about
I
that?
like it.
Okay.
And because you do like to talk about the expensive stuff,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps we'll talk about what is the proper pistol for an evening. We could be like, what is the proper pistol for a visit to the grocery store? I would never carry one, but I want to give you the opportunity to show off this gear. So yeah, let's talk about how to go to the grocery store and survive. Both if it's normal,
Right.
if there's an emergency,
Right.
or if you're having an emergency, how to maximize your very short time there, how to clear your mind to get it done,
Right.
and then what if there is violence at the grocery store? What to do?
Okay. I can dig it. Do you have any intro level questions for me?
Um,
Because I know
not
you're not like intro level at this because
right.
you've been subsistence existing for your whole life. Um,
I've been subsistence existing professionally, like at this is the level I choose to live at
right.
for about 3 years now.
Okay.
And I've done some amazing things. So my what I want and what you want are different things. I don't have the questions right now, but I will.
Yeah. Okay.
When we have this framework, we start talking about what you carry to the grocery store. That's when I'll have some questions.
Okay.
What does a prepper bring to the grocery store?
Okay. Groovy. Well, for anybody who is watching this, take a deep breath, relax, get yourself a notebook, figure out what you do on a day-to-day basis, and look at it critically. Seriously, just look at it and go, okay, you know what? This I could probably make sure this is a little more of a stable element in my life. Vehicle. I realize that especially right now, money, the dollar is not going as far as it did a couple months ago. It's rough out there, you know. I'm really fortunate in that I've got some work I got to get done on the truck, and I have two fantastic shade tree mechanics 2 doors over. So basically, when I can afford to get the parts and a couple cases of beer, I can get the work done. You know.
I come to it from the other side. I found myself in a near perfect position, complete by accident, because well, I'm seeing my friends scramble. They don't know what they're going to do. And I'm like, well, first time, noose around my neck. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So I've been living under the wheel for a while. And seriously, my electric car, which was not chosen to, I mean, it's nice that it's good for the environment, but the electric car doesn't have a lot of maintenance. What I mean is no transmission, no no engine. It's got a motor, but no engine. It's got no radiator, no pump,
Right.
nothing.
Right.
So I have a really, really, really reliable car, which is also helping me. I'm gonna buy another one soon for about $2,000 to $3,000.
Cool. Well,
But we'll talk about that. How to survive the gas station.
yeah, exactly. Get a vehicle where you don't need to go. That's easy. Look at that, 2 episodes in one. But you're watching the chat, I presume, because I'm not.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to David. He said hey, and I just wanted to say hey, David.
Well, hello, David. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you find us at least marginally entertaining. But yeah, it's all about starting small. You know, you're over the next, however many episodes we do of this, you're gonna see probably a lot of my personal gear, and when you see it, you've got to understand that this is a collection probably 20 years, 20-ish years in the making. So it's not all going to happen at once. And if it does happen at once, you're doing something wrong because you're impulse buying or you're impulse prepping and you're not thinking about it.
And I'm going to teach you how to do it OSP.
There you go. All right. Well, Whack, I appreciate you coming on and chatting. And to our viewer, David, I appreciate your time this time. Until next time, I'm Mike.
I'm Whack.
Thanks for watching. And we'll see you
Good night,
next week.
everybody.